everyone. This is Macy Girls.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about and we're going to be celebrating Black History Month. For our podcast today, we're going to be going through a series of things. We're going to introduce some figures that are either well known for Black History Month or don't get enough airtime, I will say, for Black History Month. And then we'll be moving on to organizations that help support the African American community. And then we'll be sharing some of our favorite artists, either upcoming or well-known, who are Black artists. And maybe we'll have a discussion more about why all of this is important, why it is important to celebrate Black History Month. Even though I just want to say we should really celebrate Black history like every month, because at least the history that we are going to be talking about today is part of American history. So really, in actuality, we should all take ownership over this history, not just one race or one people, but everyone. Who are some figures that we've decided to talk about today? Maybe Akane, you want to go first?
Yes. So the figure I chose was Rosa Parks. I know everybody knows that. I learned this when I was in elementary school. And the reason why I'm talking about this figure is because in college, my professor actually told us what really happened. And I was pretty shocked about that because in elementary, we were told that she was sitting in the white section, and how, because of that, she was arrested. And at that time, there was segregation, and it was horrible. But now in college, I was like, what the hell? Like, why did it, during elementary, they taught us these false
revisionist history.
Yes, something that shouldn't be done ever in this world. And I was pretty shocked about it. But now, because of my professor, I know the truth about how she was actually sitting in the correct section where the colored person would have to sit. And the truth was that there were many white people on the bus and there was no seat for them. And so the bus driver told the colored people, even though they were sitting in the colored section, to get up and lend their seats to the whites. And Rosa Parks denied, she's like, no, this is our seat. And obviously she was tired from work, so she didn't want to get up as well. And because of her courageous action, this history came to be. And I just love Rosa Parks, Gotta love her. Because of her courageous action, it's now in history. And I hope that people now know the truth about it instead of learning it from elementary school. The false truth.
Do you have, maybe we can share a link or a book or something where you got this newfound understanding of this history from? Maybe we can share that with the audience so they too can see that this is not just something that was made up,
So I actually got this from history.com. I think it's well known. If you're, probably doing something about history in school. So I recommend reading it. It kind of has the history of Rosa Parks and why she got arrested and what sparked this movement of her early life. It has a lot of stuff regarding to her her life, pretty much.
Awesome. Rosa Parks is a very, very prominent figure that we always celebrate during Black History Month. Her story is always told, and it is very great that you have really opened, I'm not saying this right, but it's great that you've really shown us really the actual history, like what actually happened. So she wasn't sitting in the white section, she was sitting in the black section, and because the bus was over full, you know, white people who were coming on the bus wanted seats. And already Black people at that time were forced to sit in the back of the bus, you know. So it's very informational, and it really tells you and it shows you a lot about how easy a story could be changed for one's agenda, you know. And I think her standing up for herself and, you know, for what's hers and for what's right, I think that is more what's celebrated versus the, you know, details of the story. It's more the fact that she stood up to oppression when someone else or the other people around her weren't doing so. And I also think it, you know, her being tired at the time really contributed to her standing up for herself. You know, I think if she wasn't exhausted, she probably would have just gave up her seat, and we would have never known about Rosa Parks from that story. And of course, she's gone on to do many, many things for the civil rights movement, and she was with Martin Luther King. So either way, I feel like she still would have been involved. It's just that her story wouldn't have been so big if she wasn't on the bus and tired. So thank you for sharing that. And Hanfel, what about you?
For me, I wanted to introduce everybody to, her name is Macy Jensen. She is the first African-American female astronaut. I don't know if a lot of people know about a lot of like Black female astronauts, but she flew in 1992 in space on the Endeavour, and becoming one of the first African American women to fly in space. She also is a physician as well, and she was one of the first African American women to be admitted into the NASA astronaut training program as well. And so she flew with six other astronauts on the Endeavour on a mission. And yeah, I think I don't know how much people know about her, but it's also the first time me knowing much more, that she has so much history of like being the first African American woman to fly in space, as well being admitted in the NASA program, and as well being a physician, well, like a doctor as well, and receiving a lot of awards and honorary doctorates. So I just wanted to share, just a little bit about her. And she is 65 years old and still living. And surprisingly, we are both the same birthday months. We're both Libras.
Wow. Okay, so the fact that she's still living is something I didn't even know. But she is another person who, at least I remember hearing about a few times in school. When we were celebrating Black History Month, she's definitely one of those figures that we talk about. And the fact that she's 66, you said? Or 67?
Like 65 years old.
65, oh, sorry. The fact that she's 65 means that history wasn't made that long ago. You know, like this is still recent history. Just like how everyone continues to say that America is still a young country, you know, the same thing applies here. This history is still recent. Wow. Okay. I don't know why I'm so shocked. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and she had many major accomplishments, just being the first Black woman to do something that other men have been able to do. So that's pretty cool. And I'll talk about the person who I chose for celebrating Black History Month. Her name is Ruby Bridges. She was born in 1954, and she, at the tender age of 6, she became the first African American student to integrate in an elementary school in the South. And because of this, she advanced the cause of civil rights during that time in 1960. Her family had moved from where they were into Little Rock, Arkansas. And the closest school for that family was an all-white school. And so her father, he really resisted, resisted her going to this school because it was an all-white school, and he was really concerned about his daughter's safety. Again, she's 6 years old. But her mother wanted her to have the educational opportunities that her parents didn't have, and that she herself, as the mom, didn't have. So they finally got her into the school, and they admitted her into school. And there were actually 2 other students of color who decided not to go to that school and attend. So every day, Ruby and her mother, they had to be escorted by 4 federal marshals to the school because there was a mob of people that would follow her literally every day. And she had to walk past crowds that were screaming very nasty, vicious slurs at her. And so imagine at the age of 6 to have to go through that. You're a child, you don't understand a lot of the things in the world still. And it's kind of like you're being forced to be an adult at a young age. Like you're supposed to understand racism, you're supposed to understand hatred, so it's very interesting how a mob of adults could do this to a young 6-year-old girl. Regardless, she persisted, even when parents were pulling out their students from the school. She still kept going, and even the principal, he still kept allowing her to go to school. And at the same time, there was only one teacher who willingly stood up to the plate to accept Ruby as a student. So for the first year that she was there, she just attended classes by herself. She was only she was only in a class of 1 student, which was herself, and she even ate lunch by herself. And in recess, she also experienced that by herself. But regardless, even through all of this, she never missed a day of school. And so because of her perseverance and the support from her parents, and even some of the few people within the school, she attended the school throughout the whole year, and became really the face of the civil rights movement at that time. And she's only 66, so she's not that much older than the female astronaut. And again, this is still recent history, Us as a younger generation might think like, oh, the 1960s and 1950s were so long ago. But really, it's not that long ago. We have people from that time period who are still alive. I mean, my parents were born in the 1950s, so and 60s, and so they experienced this from a young age. As children, they were seeing this growing up. So it's very interesting how recent all of this history is, and now she's Ruby Bridges is an activist, and she's still on the front line fighting for people's rights and fighting for racial equality. being that she is an activist, and many of these figures that we talked about are activists, and they have communities and organizations that are supporting them. What are some of the organizations that help the African American community, that really uplift the African American community and help solve some of their problems?
I was looking on Instagram, just scrolling and scrolling, and I saw like this. Actually, I am freelancing for this client, and I happened to see Chrissy Teigen's post, and it was related to her miscarriage. I said that really weirdly, miscarriage, and then like post of like the troubles of like being pregnant for a colored woman. I didn't know it was really tough, and it needs more care than like other cultures. And I was really not really shocked, but it was more like surprised in a way that I thought, like all women's bodies, I thought they were all capable of the pregnancy journey, but not really. Like that's not how it's gonna happen. So I kind of educated myself, and I found this organization called Black Mamas Matter Alliance, and the name is pretty cute, to be honest. And like just they kind of like basically kind of raise money. They advocate, they do research on how to help, and kind of have people understand the maternity health and the rights and justice for Black women. And like we have to respect the fact that like it takes different types of cares for other women, like whether they're white, they're Black, they're Asian. And I feel like this alliance, we need to help people like educate more on like how difficult the pregnancy is. And if I thought that this organization can really help that.
So they focus on helping, at least with the medical. Is that what you mean? Black Mamas Alliance, right? They help Black women go through their pregnancy journey and help them understand their health and their fertility,
and the rights and the justice. So their mission is Black Mamas Matter Alliance is a Black woman-led across sectoral alliance. We center Black mamas to advocate, drive research, build power, and shift culture for Black maternal health, rights, and justice. That is their mission.
Awesome. Yeah, because at least from what I've researched and studied on my own, there is a huge lack in care for Black mothers compared to mothers of different races, and we're always sort of put at the bottom of the totem pole, and so the amount of health care and that we receive as a community in general is always severely lacking. And there's not many resources that are being put into making sure that everyone has the right amount of care. And I think with COVID-19, we see that even more so. How this demographic of people is really being affected more so than anyone else, and it stems from the lack of having access to good healthcare. Having access to doctors that care about us, nurses that care about us, systems, that really are meant to support us and not bring us down. and all of that is being exposed, so it's great that they have a Black Mamas Alliance to bring more awareness about that. And even as a Black woman myself, I mean, I'm not in a relationship and I'm not gonna get pregnant anytime soon. But I've often thought about, whether or not I should, if I do get pregnant and I'm about to give birth, whether or not I should go to the hospital or have a at-home birth, because I don't know if I can trust, the hospital, honestly. From stories that I've heard about, Black women and their experiences with giving birth, I'm just very concerned about whether or not I will receive the right amount of care and whether or not the doctors in the hospital will actually believe me when I'm saying something is happening with me and my body. So I've often contemplated that and still am. But it is good to bring awareness about that's what, a lot of Black women go through. So thank you for sharing. How about you, Hanfil?
For me, I came across this one organization called the Common Ground Foundation. It's started by the Academy Award-winning artist, actor, and author Lonnie. I don't know if I'm supposed to. Lonnie Rashid Linney Jr., known as Common. He started this more than 10 years ago, and he really committed his time and his resources to help, especially the inner city youth in his hometown of Chicago, really to reach the high school levels through helping mentoring, college preparation programs, focusing areas on like nutrition, healthy living, financial literacy, character development, and creative expression. He really committed this foundation to really build the spirit of like for the youth of this age, really to like strive to use these resources to do better things in their life instead of getting influenced by all the stuff that is surrounded by them that could lead them into a different path. So this is something to more help them, build them up positively. So I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, and Common is another artist that is quite well known in the hip hop community. He has really contributed a lot. And actually, he came to my school once for our, I think, the 25th, one of the anniversary reunions of I think it was the 25th anniversary of my school. And so he came and he did a performance and everybody was riled up and they really loved it. They were enjoying themselves, having a good time. But he also made sure to talk to us about, why education is important and, why we should stay in school. So he really is about, all that, all that you just talked about. And he continues to do that, to this day, which is great. So thank you for sharing. And some of the organizations that I wanted to talk about, just a few. I wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter. I feel like there is a misunderstanding and a misconception about what Black Lives Matter is. They were formed as a response to what happened in 2013. Initially, they were formed in response to, in 2013, Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman. And they responded to that and quickly became a national movement to end police brutality. So everything that they do is surrounded by ending police brutality. And now that they've grown, they have expanded, their fight to not just end police brutality, but to end white supremacy. All these things are rooted in the idea of white supremacy. Why oppression continues to stay and why it continues to exist between the races. Part of it is the idea of white supremacy. And so, I don't think I really have to say much. Recently, last year, when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many others experienced injustice by the police department, they were there organizing peaceful protests. And it was really amazing to see in the audience or in the crowds, not just African American people, but you really saw people of all races. And we saw more white people come out and support the Black Lives Matter movement. And it was also amazing that BLM was really receiving support from all over the world. Like South Korea had a protest, many places in the Middle East. We saw a lot of places in Europe. It was very amazing how much support the Black Lives Matter movement was receiving from all over the world. So this is no longer just a local or national movement. This is a worldwide movement. And it's not to say that other lives are lesser than Black lives. I think that's the biggest misconception. The reason why they chose the name Black Lives Matter, or at least from my understanding, is because historically Black lives have not mattered as much as everyone else's, mostly white people's. And that is just historically. So saying Black Lives Matter is to include us in the conversation, is to include us in the dialogue. So whenever we talk about Americans, it's not just one race of America, it's, Black lives too. And it's other lives as well. But mostly with Black lives, we've been on the receiving end of the negative spectrum. And that's not to diminish, Asian lives or Latino, Latin American lives or anything like that. It's really just to say, like, we're tired. We really are tired of this history of oppression. Like, please stop. So, yeah. And then there's also the NAACP, which is another very big, very famous organization. They really pioneered in the earlier days the civil rights movement. They were all part of that, all stemmed from that. And I can include the link in the bio so that people can check out their website. But they set the foundation for civil rights movement. And honestly, without them, we probably wouldn't have an example of protest, like what a peaceful protest looks like. We would not have an example of what it's like to stand up for, your basic rights. And so many organizations and groups of people, they use that foundation, started by the NAACP and the civil rights movement, to, fight for their causes as well. So with that, we can move on to the artists that we've discovered or, that we love and support. Maybe Handful, you want to share an artist?
I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this artist, but I decided to choose the artist Stevie Wonder because I really love his songs, especially like I just what's it? I just can't. I mean, I don't remember the full title, but I always love listening to it a lot.
Oh wait, what is the song?
Where it's like, I don't know if that's the full title, but it's like, I just want to say I love you or something.
I just called to say I love you.
Yeah, I love that song. So yeah, I was just looking up a little bit about him, and he's very popular in the R&B like music, and he was born. I knew this, but didn't. I just kind of questioned it. I was just like, because I've always seen him wearing sunglasses, so I was just wondering, does he have like like a sight problem? He was not able to see because he was born premature and he was exposed to too much oxygen in the incubator, so that's how he became blind at birth. And but that didn't affect him at all, and he became like a child prodigy, being so musically inclined and starting from singing in his church choir and then blossoming into like learning piano, drums, and the harmonica. And he learned this all by the age of like 9. And I don't think there are some artists that start like very young, but like to know all of this, I think that's like pretty incredible. And then he starts his like music journey and like the label that he ends up getting signed on, and then like that kind of just charts into his career and his own path. And I think that's just like really amazing. Like despite like what you would consider like a sight disability, he uses it as his advantage because it gives him like a sixth sense, he was saying. And like he creates such like wonderful music even to this day that a lot of people love. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he even wrote the song Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
That was based off of that was based on Martin Luther King. I think he really wrote that song with Martin Luther King in mind. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so that's why the song, I think part of it is well known is because of that history. But people now just use the song to just sing happy birthday to each other, which is great still. It's great. It serves two purposes. I'll go next. So this was really hard for me. As you guys know, I love music. I love listening to music. I love singing. Oh, this was like, who do I choose? But one person for sure is the Queen, Beyonce. I've been a big fan of hers since I was a young girl. And I think even more recently with the projects that she's a part of and that she's doing, she really tries to bring more light to Black creatives, Black artistry, and really put us on a pedestal. And the reason why a lot of people appreciate her for that is because usually someone of her stature and level and status, we usually see them dissociate. We usually see them remove themselves a little bit from the Black community. I don't really understand why that is, why people do that, but for her, she decided, this is who she is. She is a Black woman. There's no way she can get around it. And she decided to use her fame and success, her status, to really bring light to, Black artistry, Black creatives, Black music, Black everything, as much as possible. And so that's why she was able to do projects like Black is King. I don't know if you guys watched it yet, but it's so beautiful. I mean, it's based off of The Lion King. So the themes and ideas are all based off of The Lion King. And she basically just retells the story through her music. And she collaborated with a lot of African artists, those that are well known and those that aren't as well known. And she, did this project, spent time in investing. Sorry, I can't speak. She spent time in investing it, went to Africa actually and recorded a lot of the things there in different African countries, not just one location. And so I just wanted to give her a highlight and shout her out during this History Month, because she's always finding a way to contribute to pushing and highlighting the excellenceness that exist. I don't know if that's a word, but she's always trying to push black excellence. And because of that, a lot of her peers are also influenced by her, and they're doing their little projects or big projects to support black excellence, to show like we're great people. We've done a lot of things, not just musically and entertainment wise. So I definitely have to give her a highlight. And another person who is not very well known, she's a new and upcoming artist. Her name is Shea Universe. And her voice is so like dreamy, and it reminds me of like old R&B. And she's a UK based songstress. And, a lot of her songs are about love and romance, and they have a lot of emotion in it. But she's very easy to listen to, like very like good on the ears, I would say. And she has a very soothing voice. So definitely listen to her music, Shea Universe. I love her song Melanin. I have that like literally all on repeat. So it's one of my faves. And last but not least, Chloe and Hallie, or Haley, I always say her name wrong. Oh my God, I'm sorry. They are an upcoming artist. They're a sister duo, and they were actually discovered by Beyonce. So she is their mentor, essentially. She's helping them in their career, really helping to guide them. And it's really cool that she's their mentor, because then that means like they get the best hairstylist, the best fashion stylist, like they kind of get the best of everything. But regardless of their connection to Beyonce, they are super talented. So I really advise people go and listen to their song. They put out an album called Ungodly Hour, and there's just so many good songs on the album. I can't just highlight one, but I guess one song that they've promoted quite often or quite a lot is their song called Do It. And it's a fun, like, upbeat tune. And there's just so many good songs on this album. I can't choose one. So please go out and listen to them. So that's all for me. How about you, Akane? Who are you highlighting today?
So today's highlight for me is Doja Cat.
I love Doja!
Her personality, her songs, love it.
She's super creative. Like, no one else is really doing it like her. Anyways.
Right? And the reason why I chose her is because, so I was listening to Say So, but a Japanese version first. It was just on YouTube, and a person was covering it. The person is called Reinichi. I think the CH at the end is meaning channel, but I'm not sure. But her version was like, oh, for the love of God, are you an angel? Low-key, I would put that on repeat. And I saw this like not TikTok, Instagram live that Doja Cat did, and one of her viewers actually recommended for her to see Reinichi's version, the Japanese version of Doja Cat. And she was like, oh my God. And I was like, I know, right? It's your song, but it's in Japanese. And I was like, and like after like hearing Say So version in Japanese, I decided to like listen to the original for the of Doja Cat's. And I was like, oh wow, the original's better. No, but I'm not saying like Reinichi did like a horrible job. I'm just saying like, like wow, they both did a very great job at, both covering and also singing their song. And gotta say this, the MTV Europe Music Awards version, the rock version, just made me even more love it so much. Like cause like I watch anime, so
Yes,
the majority of anime openings are rock, and this just hit to me. I was like, oh my god, this version is so fire. So yeah, like she's up and like rising up, and she did a collab remix with Ariana Grande recently on 34 35. So I recommend listening to that. And there you have it, Doja Cat, man.
Doja Cat, she's like one of those people. She's one of those people that you like definitely want to keep up with, and anytime she does she's featured on a song with someone, like she always slays. She always does a great job. I don't know how. I really don't know how she does it, but and actually her Billboard Music Awards performance also, I suggest you look at that. Connie, I don't know if you saw it, but she basically does some of her hit songs in a more,
is it the musical kind of way?
Yeah, in a musical kind of way. I love watching it. She's just so good. So yes. And I think another thing to point out about her, her father is South African, and I'm not sure what her mother, I don't know if she's white or Hispanic or white Hispanic. I don't know if she's both. But anyways, so that's why, we highlight her this month as upcoming artists that you guys should look out for. Yeah, and so, the reason why we want to, celebrate Black history, or why we think it's important to, talk about these things, is just so that, people can become aware. This is the world that we live in. These are some of the things that don't get taught in our schools, unfortunately. And so we, as the people, as Americans, as a world, we have to take ownership of this history, and we have to own up to it and accept it for what it is or what it was, and really try to be better, do better, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. So we really just wanted to bring awareness about some of these things, and, highlight some artists that y'all could listen to, add to your playlist, do something that is different from what you're normally used to. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope that this was educational. Any last words from you guys?
It's not really like a last word, but it's kind of to like emphasize what you said. Like, I want people to really understand, the culture. It's not because, like, there's so many stereotypes, way too many, like in a negative standpoint, and I want people to understand it's not all about the stereotypes. It's really not because of the stereotypes, because like Black people didn't create those kind of stereotypes. It's another culture that kind of views that stereotypes for that specific let's say race. And I wish that people understand that there's more to it. They have character, they have talent just like anybody else, and just please view them as a single like person, and just please respect everyone.
No, I can agree with Akane also. I think it's also very informative as well for myself, because I feel like we should never stop ourselves from learning and educating ourselves, especially on topics we don't know. Because I feel like if you allow yourself not to be educated on something, I feel like that can make you more ignorant about a culture, about a race, about people. And I feel like that's not the kind of community people want to live in. That's not what kind of atmosphere or place we want to have either. So it's really just getting to understand one another's culture, getting to understand one another. And I think we can really come into a place where there's like peace in this world. I really hope so.
Yes, exactly. This is all about, creating that world of peace, creating that world where everyone can live in harmony and in happiness, So highlighting these things and talking about them really does push that idea forward. It progresses people to, come out of their shells and to really open their hearts and expand their hearts.
Comment below what Black History Month means to you.
And like and subscribe to our channel.
Make sure to turn on the notification bell so that you know when our videos come out.
Thank you for watching BC Girls, creating a better version of yourself.
Bye.